We're back. It is podcasting time. I'm James Piecowye. He is Glenn Power. This is the PowerWorks Podcast. A big shout out, hello, to everyone at 100.3, the home of news, sports, and conversation, who have us for the next hour. And everyone who's just chosen by chance, or not, to dial in whatever network, whatever bandwidth you're consuming, whether it be on Spotify, whether it be on Google, or any other of the myriad of places that you can get this podcast. Welcome. Great to have you. It is PowerWorks. We're talking cars and more, and we're going to keep you entertained, informed, and educated over the next, 50 minutes. So, by the way, do like us, do share us, do comment, do let us know what's going on. We're seeing a lot of those comments coming through on YouTube, and I think those are great. I think those are great comments, and we respond to everything, so it does not go into the abyss.
We like the offensive ones.
There's a few very sarcastic people as well who have some suggestions for garages around the planet. So yeah, that's really good. Two things. First of all, when's the last time you went to a revolving restaurant? And there is silence.
Never been.
So you know there is one in Dubai.
Yeah.
And usually when someone says revolving restaurant, exactly the response that Glenn just had, you kind of pucker up your lips. It's like,
I was thinking, I know there are a few.
Yeah.
And I've been to I think there's one in New York and I've been there and I never went. And I know there's one here and I've never been.
Yeah.
But
so the one here, I have been going to this restaurant on and off for maybe the last 20 years. 20 years I've been going to this restaurant. The fact that it still exists is a miracle. But it does still exist, and it is in the Hyatt Galleria down in Old Dubai. Actually, that is quite modernized down part of that area. But this hotel has been exquisitely upkept. I mean, we walked in last night, and it was sort of one of those things. Says, wait, we got to go somewhere, a little special occasion. And I said, let's go to the revolving restaurant. My wife's eyes rolled into the back of her head. She goes, not again. I said, no, I really like going there, and you do get a nice view of old and new Dubai, and it's fun at sunset. It's a beautiful place for a sunset. The one of the things I gotta say, the food, because that's always the question people have. It's the food. What's the food like? And we were sitting there last night. And I looked at my wife, and we're eating away, and I said, I don't think this menu has changed in 20 years. I think this is exactly the same menu that we've had every time we've come. We probably go once every couple of years. The menu has not changed. The quality of the food, it's good. Is it top?
Yeah,
it's a Hyatt. It's not bad, but the menu has not changed. So. I looked at my wife and I said, this is a cheerful place. You come and you know exactly what you're going to get. And I did the oysters on the half shell. I mean, it's a buffet, so I guess you can order, but why would you? So I hit up the buffet. They got oysters on the half shell. I probably ate 300 dirhams worth of oysters. And I said, "The
money worth."
That's what I said. I said, "There we go." I'm looking up the UK. I'm looking up Canada. I'm looking up, hey, what's a dozen oysters cost?
Yeah.
I said, "Yep, I've eaten my." Yeah. They kept refilling them, and I thought, all right, but it's really a fun place. And the other cool thing is you really end up driving to get there. Like, there's a new bridge in Shindaga. I know they were building that thing. That tells you the last time I was down there. There's this 12-lane bridge. So you still have the Shindaga Tunnel, but you've also got a 12-lane bridge. And my wife and I are both looking, going, where'd this come from? When did this go up? How did we miss it? But the other nice thing, and again, travel log for Dubai, and a lot of you guys get it if you're around Knife Street and other places. At night, I mean, Dubai is wonderful. The UAE is wonderful during the day, but it's really at night that you get all of the lights and signage and some things that are just kind of bizarre. Everything looks better at night. So we were also in a little bit of traffic, just kind of looking around going, we haven't been down here in a long time. We got to do this again. So it was kind of fun.
Changes fast down there.
Yeah.
I went over that bridge. We were going to the ice rink. There's an ice rink. I can't remember the name of it
It's
down there.
there's one in the Galleria.
Might have even been that one.
That's where it is. It's
Might
in the
have even
Galleria.
been that one.
I think that's the first one.
But we went over the bridge to take the girls to a birthday party for one of their school friends down there. And I remember going over the bridge and being like, it's big for where we are. But it does get a bit messy down there traffic-wise.
Oh.
It was definitely needed. But I think I was like on a Saturday afternoon or so. It wasn't busy. But yeah, it's there's a lot going on down there. Like you say, it's called Old Dubai, but it's not
I also shed a tear.
anymore.
I shed a tear because right beside the Hyatt Galleria Hotel was where the fish market originally was, which is now a giant, I don't know what it is. It's towers, there's apartments, there's everything there. And that's it. It's gone. Like that they've moved the fish market obviously into another location. It's air conditioned, it's nice, it's better. But we used to like going there.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's like, you moved there all these years ago and you kind of like what you've got.
Yeah.
That's why you stay. And then it changes and you don't like it. It's like, it's not a country. We don't get a say in this, but
it's familiarity. You get used to familiarity and then it's like, all right, well, there we go. It happened. It had another nice one this morning. Glad we're coming to podcast. Dropping my wife off at school. Get out of the car to do something. Can't get out of the car.
I think it was a fit of rage. Just pulled the handle clean off the door.
Nah, just open it normal. But the best thing was there was no response from my wife or myself. There was no, it was just like,
16-year-old plastic, 15-year-old plastic.
Yeah. And it was just like, oh, come on. Not what else? What else?
Yeah. If you'd been in the yellow one, you could have like Starsky and Hutched it straight out the window.
Well, exactly. There's no windows in it, so that's even not an issue. This one, my only concern was because I instantly I'm thinking, do I really need to get this fixed? And so that was the first thing.
Can I figure this out another way?
But the problem was in that logic of thinking that I realized, okay, the only way now to get in and out is I'm going to have to lower down the window.
Yeah.
And that's on a motor. And then all I'm thinking is, oh, how many times can I be putting it up and down before the motor's going to go?
Yeah. Yeah. We got, and Jeep door handles are not the most practical to open from the inside either. Like when you're trying to get to the outside, it's a push button thing.
Push button.
Yeah. It's not the easiest. You have some bit of contortion going on.
But that got me thinking again, and this is a conversation we've had over and over and over again about plastic now. We've talked about them in radiators, underneath, and everywhere in a car is full of plastic. And I want to think that the plastic manufacturing has gotten better. You deal with it. You're shaking your head. No, it's not gotten any better.
No, I think if anything, the manufacturing's fine. It's just the fact that everybody's cost cutting. So what used to be maybe a thicker plastic, it might have had a rib structure in it. It might have had, might have been covered with leather or soft touch or something like that. Now it's a lot thinner, and there's a lot of recycled materials like carpet underlay and stuff that are there for sound deadening purposes, so you don't really notice it. But the whole dashboard experience, if you want to call it that, unless you go for something premium, it's in terms of what we deal with it for, taking it out and putting it back together, it's a lot less of a. Quality is not a fair thing to say, because I think the actual material, obviously, they haven't got worse at making it, but they're just making it thinner and less resilient. And it's a weird one, because the cynic in you wants to say that it's because they know that it'll break and you have to buy a new one, but nobody's buying these new bits. Every car that comes in here has got plastic dashboards with cracks all over them, and no one's going to pay the money for a new one. So it's obviously just a cost cutting exercise. Which, if you save, say you're Toyota, and you save 10 cents on every single dashboard that you put in a car, making millions of cars.
So if I have, I'm looking out in your garage, you've got some Range Rovers, you've got all sorts of great things out there. I pull off the door panel. Everyone's got plastic parts underneath? Pretty
much. We had a Chevy Cruze in yesterday.
Oh, those are new.
And it's a teacher from the school that my kids go to, and her daughter is in my eldest daughter's class, and we know them quite well from play dates and parties and all that.
School?
Arbor School in Jebel Ali, yeah. So pick the car up in the morning, it's going for test, bring it in for a service first. Tyres are damaged on it. We need the tyres changed. It's got a kid's basketball stuck in the spring on the back end.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
They didn't notice this?
They said there was a bit of a noise on it, and I'm pretty sure that was all it was, because I didn't hear anything after we'd taken that out. We got a video of it for them. There was no remnants of any children under there, so I don't think it was any kind of issues with a hit and run, kids playing in the street. But that was wedged under there. And but we put the windows down on the service to make sure the windows work, and came down, wouldn't go back up.
Oh no!
Now that was a plastic piece. There's like a nylon. So it's just basically a pulley that guides the cable, but it's eccentric, and the edge of it broke off, so the cable just came off of it. No noise, no nothing, just went down, just wouldn't come back up. So I mean, we can repair those. We can get new wheels. We can. I mean, 3D printing's good.
You guys thought of going into that here?
Yeah, we've done a few things actually. Okay. The old Cutlass that's here that we're doing a rebuild on. The guy that owns that, he runs 3D print just down the road.
All right.
They've got a huge place down there. They've made parts for old Porsches for us. They've made a few little bits here and there for us. We're actually looking at doing a clear composite oil sump for one of our vans, and we're going to use it as a bit of a example, shall we say, of a study, shall we say, of oil quality and oil life. So we obviously pour the oil in, it'll go in like honey. We'll be able to see it through the sump, and then we'll be able to see it as it degrades, and we'll get a bit of a hopefully Raoul, who does our social media photography, can come in and get some stuff on that, and just a bit of a example. I mean, it can be quite expensive. We tried to get I think it was for Colin, or was it his business partner Dan, from We Will Fix It. It was one of their cars anyway. The armrest had it doubled as a refrigerator. Easy for me to say.
Oh, I remember this story.
So the plastic on the bottom had broken off of it, so the lock wouldn't hold it down closed, and it was rattling around. And to get it made 3D printed was like 3,500 dirhams.
Get out of here.
Yeah, because that was reinforced, and it was thick, and it was insulated, and etc. And there was all the lugs and tags on it to hold it in place. So it just wasn't worth doing. But that, we could probably go and price one of those up in a year or so's time, and the price will have come down, because things are getting better all the time with 3D printing. And for people with classic cars, it's a good little thing to have. You just have to remember that, it's not an original part.
Right.
So anyone that's sort of a romantic about the car and a purist might not necessarily want a side repeater lens printing for their 968 Club Sport, because they want to keep it original, but good luck getting an original one.
Yeah, you gotta.
And sometimes it needs must, right? You got to get the car on the road. So yeah, it does save people, and it's getting more, and it's a hobby, right? There's a young lad that trains in the gym with us on a group on a Monday evening, and he's only 14. He's at school, and
14.
They do 3D printing at school, and he brings his stuff in that he's made. I can't remember. He made something. I think he made a pin for the weight stack, which he gave to the trainer. Okay. He's made me some chocks for wheels when you're changing a tire. And you can print these things relatively cheaply. I mean, the school have obviously got an expense on that, but they charge high enough fees, don't they? So it's fine.
It's built
but 3D printing's a good. I mean, I think the first thing I ever saw on 3D printing was a Stephen Hawking documentary, and they were printing dashboards. I think it might have been Jaguar, and they were saying that for things like dashboards, traditionally they'd either been injection molded, or they'd start with a block of material and chip away at it and file away at it and sand away at it and cut away at it, and then the problem with that was you had a lot of waste
and weight
and dust and pollution and everything else, whereas 3D print it for what you want it to be, you only use what you need, right? So, I mean, we've got 3D printed buildings here, down near the Museum of the Future.
And they seem to be holding up too. Every year I go by, give them another look. It's like, okay, they're still there.
Yeah, so I think it's obviously going to be something that it's so much more of an efficient use of material, and you don't just have to. It doesn't have to just be plastic. They can do it with other. They can reinforce these things, and it's quite interesting. It's probably one of those things where, if you can imagine, as the technology improves and AI improves, I mean, it's kind of going to be an endless possibilities, right?
Look, I get plastic and 3D printing and efficiencies, but in my mind, I want to think that the automobile manufacturers, on parts that are going to be constantly moved
Yeah,
or in motion, like door handles and
Yeah.
all of those mechanisms, are going to be metal,
yeah.
something that's sustainable. Whereas, as we said, plastic degrades. Heat and cold are not the friends of plastic.
I remember putting a set of billet aluminium window winders on my Golf. I had a Mark II Golf, and the back doors were manual. The front ones were electric. The back doors were manual. It was 1990. Come on.
Okay.
And I put these billet aluminium winders on, so they're obviously nice and sturdy. And then as soon as the window, I mean, no one was ever in the back really. I was driving the car alone, but I remember my cousin was in the back with me, driving around, and he just wound the window down. And the handle obviously didn't break, but everything else broke behind the door because there was no give anywhere on the handle. And they've always been that way. I mean, the more disappointing side for me is if you go to that was a Mark II Golf, to Mark III, even Mark IV, take the door panel off, you'll have a thin plastic sheet with a butyl cord all the way around it that seals the door.
Okay.
Nice rubber grommets in the bottom, air drains, water drains, everything in there.
Right.
It's gonna last forever. It's a nightmare taking that off when you got to work on it, and it gets messy. But
getting it back on,
it does its job. You just put it back on. It's how it is.
Okay.
Go to the newer cars, not there.
What? They left it off.
Yeah. Again, it's a $1 saving per car, right?
Right.
You just do the maths on it.
But it makes for a better seal. I mean,
It does, yeah. It makes the car last longer. But do they really want that?
well, that was the other thing. Open up the panel on the Jeep. I mean, there's a lot of dust in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah. We've had a couple this week. We've had a couple of Cayennes in.
nice
I love
car.
the Porsche Cayenne.
It's a
These
nice
are both
car.
the same sort of model, 2014.
Oh man, that's
15.
a nice year. That's a nice.
And I'm driving around in them,
They're rattling.
and it's like, it's old now, isn't it? It's 10 years old, and it's like, oh no. Now what?
Yeah.
Like we had both customers are friends, actually, but they're both friends. And I'm thinking, plastic's broken, gear lever, the knob's cracked, window switch is gone, which is a problem on those anyway. The chrome bit's falling out. The center switch pack for the suspension height, that's all cracking. The door handles are wearing out. The seat leather's cracking. The clear coat on the paint's coming off.
10 years. It's got a 10-year lifespan. That
And it's
vehicle.
like you're thinking, oh no, because the cost of owning that car isn't going down.
No.
The cost is going up, but it's very, very fast approaching the time of a major repair being more than the value of the car.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the aesthetic stuff and
it
some
is
of the
aesthetic,
functional stuff.
Yeah.
But then you've got all the other things,
Yeah.
the mechanical pieces now
Yeah.
that are.
I mean, the good thing about that example of the Cayenne is that mechanically they're pretty good if you maintain a Porsche. Say it about most German cars, but if you maintain them as maybe a little bit in excess of what the manufacturer says for this market, you won't have many mechanical problems.
which is good.
But I can tell you all the common problems on a Porsche Cayenne, and I can tell you that that's been caused by the owners being, neglecting the maintenance of it. But to paint that thing detracts from its value to some people. But it's an expensive job. It's an expensive paint job just to do the paint, and then you're talking about maybe 1,000 dirhams for a switch pack, probably 2,000 dirhams for a gear lever, maybe 1,000 dirhams for the suspension height switches, maybe.
But value, you put those new switches on, you put those new things, you do it. That's going to last you another 10 years.
You would hope so.
You would hope so. Yeah.
But this goes back to what we said 10 years ago. They were making them better than they are now.
Yeah.
The plastic's not necessarily as robust as it was because it's cheaper to make it less robust, right? So, it's always. We got a Range Rover in yesterday, 2012 Range Rover Sport. Now, I remember, obviously, when I came here in 2012, that was obviously the new car, and I remember seeing them on their own being like, like you do now with the new Range Rover, work of art. Well, that car's worth 15k.
That's
now,
all.
15, 20k. So the people that now own them aren't necessarily in the same sort of lifestyle bracket as the person that bought it when it was new.
Right.
12 years ago.
Okay, I get where you're going with this.
So that Range Rover came in yesterday, and it's an air suspension's leaking on it. It's probably the 10th time it's had air suspension work done on it. Easily in 12 years, definitely on that model.
Thoughts on air suspension, though? If you had a choice to get one with or without, would you go with or without?
You see, when it works,
it works.
It's nice. You know, the Cayenne, Range Rover, a lot of the Audis still. When they work, then I mean, you getting on those old A8 limousines from sort of 2009, 10 with the air suspension. There's very, very few cars, even now, that you could sit in the back of and be as comfortable as you are in that.
Okay.
You know, but then when it breaks, you know, and the thing with those A8s is the example, when the air suspension parts come, they come in like a big wooden coffin, and it's like, you know, you just want to jump in it if you own the car because it's 15 grand a side or whatever.
Wow.
But you know, it's one of those where.
So what's up with the Range Rover?
Well, that's the thing. The guy came in. He messaged me the night before. Actually, he was in a bit of a panic, and this car's his baby. I asked him to send me details of the car so I could book him in. I was at home. It was like 9:30 at night. So he'd sent me something. He'd obviously had a photo shoot with his car outside his house. Wheel turn just off center, lights on, sun setting in the background. And it's like, he obviously loves his car. And then he came in yesterday morning and had a chat with him and had a check, and there was a leak on the air suspension. We told him it was the front right. Better to change both fronts. We may find that in doing so, we're going to have to change the compressor because the dryer is going to be saturated. There's a valve that's probably going to want to be changed. Blah blah blah. You know, we're looking at a starting point of around 4,000 or 5,000, and we could go onwards to 10 or 11. You know, that's over half of what he paid for the car.
But he loves the car.
But he can't afford to fix it.
Oh.
So now the possibly 4,000 or 5,000. In 2 or 3 months will definitely be 10 or 11 because he'll keep running it with a leak. The compressor will damage itself up because it'll be overworked, but also the dryer will be saturated, so then all the valves will need to be changed. So you've got 4,000 or 5,000 for the struts, 3,000 for the compressor, and then you've got 1,000 each for the valves.
So what's he going to do?
He's going to be in that situation soon. And then at that point, then if you haven't got 10,000, you've written the car off.
Yeah,
for
like
your own
he has to do it now.
Yeah, but he ain't got the money now.
He's not going to have the money later
Because it's okay. Although it's a Range Rover, it's a 15,000 dirham car.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
So that is a huge issue with folks who buy cars that were very expensive that now aren't so expensive, but the repair costs for some of the items are very expensive.
You have to understand that you can go and buy a Sunny for 15,000.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And this is a Range Rover for 15,000 now. You're not going to have any of those repairs to do on a Sunny because you ain't got that head suspension on it. You know, you're just not going to have to worry about it.
That is a big issue that I don't think people necessarily take into account when they start looking at buying some of these dream cars.
Yeah.
And how much it's going to cost when stuff goes.
Yeah.
And if you couldn't afford the car to start with, which, like, could I go buy these new cars? No. So I see a great one used and get it. Am I going to be able to fix all the stuff? No. Well, then I'm doomed.
Yeah, it's something that we try and stay conscious of. And it's so quite easy for myself or for DJ to forget the cost of ownership of a car.
Yeah.
Because we can fix ours most of the time on our own. But when you have a customer that comes in with a vehicle, you've got to understand their position quite quickly, because whilst we have a duty of care to our customers and to other road users to make sure all cars are safe, we cannot just go around doing people favours by saying, don't worry about fixing that, it's fine.
Yeah.
So we're putting people at risk. And, we've seen it. We've seen it before with Range Rovers. The air suspension fails and it goes to the point where it fails completely and bang, and it's sat on the wheels and tyres.
Yeah, it's no good.
People are driving them around like that, and then your tyres are catching fire. And you can't. You just have to have an honest, open conversation sometimes. And if you can't afford to fix it, you can't afford to fix it. But that doesn't mean you can just keep driving it.